Hello, good people. Once again, coming in a little bit late this week. This week I'm recovering from COVID. Yes, when it rains, it pours. And I, once again, will not be sad to see this year come to a conclusion. But what I can tell you is this, over the last couple of weeks, and I hope you're enjoying this cute little cat in the background. Yes, there will be cats today, so in case I get distracted. Anyway, so this getting sick business, last couple of weeks it was a head cold, and this week it's recovering from COVID. What it's done has had a pretty dynamic effect on my life. Seemingly mundane things, not necessarily the COVID being mundane, but being grounded, right? Kind of grinding to a halt. And what that's allowed me to do is dig into some deep stuff, which I'll share with you. I was going to pick up from last week talking about sex and sexuality, and I'll get back to that perhaps after the holidays. But this week, what's hot on my plate is this inner work that I'm doing that I wanted to share with you, because I'm absolutely certain there's some overlap between what I'm experiencing and what other folks are. So, grinding to a halt. Just huge reservoirs of emotion that I've been tapping into. I just read Conscious Uncoupling, which is a program that my husband and I will be going through over the next 6 weeks or so, starting in January. We have a wonderful opportunity to work with individual coaches, and will guide us through that book to conclude our 25-year relationship. So that's a very, very big deal. So that was the beginning. I listened to the audio version of that book rather quickly, and obviously we'll go back and dig through it step by step as I work through with a coach. But the other book that has been like absolutely paradigm shifting and explosively enlightening in not so comfortable ways is the book Codependent No More. So that's a classic by Melody Beattie. Been around for many, many years. I think she wrote it in the 80s. So I'm not going to get into the whole thing. It's, if you have grown up or in any way been affected by addiction, whether as an addict or a person dependent upon compulsive behaviors, whether that's substance abuse or sex or gambling or whatever, shopping, highly, highly recommend reading this book, listening to this book. It's absolutely blown my mind in how I've seen myself in the behaviors that have been described. And one that I'm just going to focus on today. I won't obviously go through the whole thing because that would be a lot. But one of the behaviors that I so completely identified with, especially as a magical person, I think I'm more vulnerable than the average, is the concept of creating fantasy, right? When reality is lacking, we have this beautiful, incredible, self-preserving capacity to create a fantasy. And that's what I've been dynamically talented at doing, is creating a fantasy, which of course supersedes the reality that I'm actually living in. And then I start to project that fantasy on people around me, my loved ones, people I want in my life to love, all sorts of dynamic dysfunction. And I think in the book, or I'm not exactly sure where I saw this piece, is that, doing fantasy is on the whole a disassociative behavior, which I'd never considered that before. So it's disassociation. Take a deep breath. So that's a lot. And here I am at my advanced age, coming to grips with this behavior that I've cultivated, perpetrated, projected, bought and sold. None of it based on my own awareness. None of it based on my intuition. None of it based on reality. So I can laugh about it now, but boy, oh boy, I've been boo-hooing some big old crocodile tears in my head cold / COVID state over the last few weeks as I digest, let's face it, a whole new level of shadow work. I thought I was done with all this shadow work. I was pretty certain I was done with shadow work, but it seems that there was one part of the shadow. I sort of dealt with the people, the places, and the things, but I hadn't dealt with the number one part of the shadow, which is me. And so anyway, sorry about that. I had a little alarm that went off. So yes, disassociative, fantastical thinking, yes, creation of story, because reality is either too painful or too complicated or completely out of control because you're the child of addicted people, unconscious people, people in pain with unresolved trauma of their own. So that's a lot. So lots of shadow work. Yeah, and I want to I'll close out this week with a beautiful clearing designed to break through all that disassociative thinking, which is this. What have you defined as your life? What fantasy have you created as your life that isn't your life? That you keep choosing as your life, excuse the cats, in order to not live. Everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, pod, poc, all nine shorts, boys, povits, and beyonds. And the last part of what I just said is called the clearing statement. And if you come to a bars class, that would be a part of that, which I'll explain another time. So I'll reread that. What have you defined as your life? What fantasy have you created as your life that isn't your life, that you keep choosing as your life in order to not live? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy and uncreate it? Yes. So we are just a few days out from Christmas and New Year's, and I'm wishing all of you a beautiful, wonderful 2024. I don't know that I'll do a video next week in the middle of a holiday week. Maybe I will. But if I don't, sending you all lots of magic. And like me, I hope you fall in love with the reality of your life, as I'm learning to do outside of fantasy and projection. Ciao for now.